My name's Tad Schechter. I'm the person responsible for introducing the star of this morning's show. No. Some people aren't standing up. What's going on over there? Thank you. What a warm welcome. That's so nice. That's not why I came up here. Seriously, it wasn't. Anyway, I wanted to introduce Cody Bulkley this morning because he's a really important member of the team. I felt it was appropriate for me to introduce him because I'm the guy who has to marshal millions of dollars, thousands of engineers, and hundreds of suppliers to bring parts together to create these cars so these guys can go hooning around in all sorts of fun venues. So it's only fitting that we put some context in what Cody does. Seriously, though, I also wanted to stand in front of what's probably going to be the largest audience today and be able to say that. But what these guys do, you don't just show up. You know, it's not just luck. These guys have the jobs they do because they have a unique skill set. Obviously, starts with great engineers. You have to be a great driver. You have to be able to assess a car while it's doing crazy things. You also have to have the people skills and the rest of the organizational knowledge that comes to actually help make the car better. Car's way more than a collection of parts. It's a synthesis of those parts, and we want to make sure the whole is more than the sum of the parts. And the guys like Cody and others in his group, that's what they do. So even though we're talking about fun stuff today, there's lots and lots of very serious work that goes on behind the scenes. So, Cody, take it away.
Thank you, Taj. Thank you, everyone. So today, effectively, you're going to just learn how to hoon an E-Ray. All right, so you guys met me last year, but my name is Cody Bulkley, and I'm a chassis control engineer on Corvette. I work on the ABS systems, the brakes, traction control, stability control, but uniquely on the E-Ray, it was integrating that brand new all-wheel drive system and bringing it into this mid-engine platform, which, as Taj said, is mostly just sliding a car around all day. So last year, you guys got to see us shock the world on the 70th anniversary of Corvette. We craned a Corvette in and cycloned at the Rockefeller Center in New York. Let's see that one more time. It was amazing. So what you guys saw there was a pretty silly maneuver, but there was a reason. We needed to show to the world the new expression that comes with the E-Ray. And is that not something extremely special? So what you're going to see this year is a different side of it. We talked about uniquely the Cyclone last year, but there's more to the E-Ray in the snow, and you're about to go behind the scenes. So let's talk a little bit about the architecture of the E-Ray. As you guys know, it's a decoupled axle. What I mean by that is there's no propeller shaft from the rear of the car to the front of the car. It's decoupled, there's no mechanical bond, and its relationship is purely through software. This brings a lot of unique benefits to what we're able to do. And as you can see right here, this is that front drive unit, the battery in the structural tunnel, and this is that beautiful LT2 V8 that roars to life. This is another unique aspect of the vehicle is that front motor can spin up to 16,000 RPM, allowing you to hoon around. what does this give you as a driver? What are you achieving by having this? Well, really what it does is allows us to optimize what the front axle is able to do for every situation. If you're driving around town, we can use the front axle a little bit less. If you're getting really sideways, we can use it more to help you. And if you're on a racetrack, it's uniquely defined to give you the optimal corner balance. And if you're like me over there at the track yesterday, when you get really sideways, it's there to bail you out. But in respect to driving it in the snow or low grip surfaces, this is what makes the E-Ray so unique. You can achieve up to 75 degrees or more, as we found at winter test, of vehicle side slip. And we're going to touch on that more here in a second. But that's truly what mind bends the E-Ray from other variants in our portfolio and across the world. Okay, so this is like a boring driver, just driving around on the snow, falling asleep while driving. This is how you drive an E-Ray in the snow. So this is what I mean by 75 degrees or more. This is the path that you're driving, and you're literally using the passenger window to go through your path. So those of you that ordered an E-Ray, if you're using the front window, you're doing it wrong. And this is what you see me doing in all these videos and all of our team that's driving these cars. You really got to learn how to use the all-wheel drive. The Z06, the Stingray, they're fantastic vehicles. You just have to learn and drive this car differently. And how you do that is really getting comfortable using the throttle. It's incredibly fun to go full throttle, straight line, sideways, racetrack. That is your best device in this car. And of course, be a pro drifter, get it to opposite lock steering, full throttle, you're going to have fun. All right, so touching on what we did leading up to the reveal of the E-Ray, we have an awesome proving ground in northern Michigan. One of you guys keeps getting spy shots out there. Stop doing that, or else I'd show you where that was. But effectively, we've got what I call these hoonable or driftable surfaces out there. We've got a small snow circle. Effectively, that's a grocery store parking lot, let's be real. And then you've got a large snow circle. That's more like if you're rallying through the woods in the snow and you want to have about 70 miles an hour of speed really fast. And then we've got a snow field, and that's really where the Cyclone came to birth. That effectively allowed us to do crazy things at the end of a day when you're just bored and you want to spin 720 degrees and keep your foot in the floor to see what happens. That's where you get to do it. And from an engineering perspective, that's where we really got to refine the all-wheel drive to see what makes it good. We laugh about making the car drift a lot, but we had to have a lot of stability when you're driving around on the streets to make the car safer as well, and these surfaces allowed us to do that. We've also got a mile-long snow handling course, which I'll touch on more in a minute. And this is just one example of that snow field that we can play around in. So you can imagine how much fun it is to just spin all the way across that. So these are pretty neat pictures. We, during the development, we knew the E-Ray was special, but how special? Well, we drop shipped 4 of them to Colorado in the middle of the winter and said, go get stuck. Well, we didn't. And we made it all the way through there. These was out in the backwoods somewhere near Breckenridge. This was a beautiful drop near a bunch of mountains near Colorado Springs. And the E-Rays, we were just having a lot of fun. This is a great story up there. That was actually at our winter test facility. I was with my passenger, Jason, who's the all-wheel drive calibrator, and we had an immediate storm. And we were out on a snowfield trying to get back to the building, and it came down about literally a foot in the matter of no time. It's northern Michigan. And we said, well, getting the push truck is for quitters. We're going through this. So we pushed that snow all the way back to the building and didn't get stuck. And if you get your tape measure out, that's over a foot pushing onto the window. So everyone that's wondering if the E-Ray can go in the winter, if that doesn't answer your question, I don't know what will. What you just saw there, that was our winter test facility. And if you remember, in 2022, that was the first time GM ever acknowledged there was an electrified all-wheel drive Corvette coming. And we were so humble and honored to show what we do up at our winter test facility to the world. So we've showed you that the car can drift, and we showed you it's capable. All of the media highlighted that. But how fast is the E-Ray in the snow? That is what we're going to touch on today in this presentation. So while we practiced over the years, we had that mile-long course. This is effectively a racetrack like you have across the street here, but it's prepped and it's with snow. there's elevation, there's on-camber, off-camber, and it really allowed us to develop the E-Ray's all-wheel drive system to provide the optimal nimble balance, corner exit performance, and really refine the car in those conditions for anyone that wants to play with the car. And ironically, we actually got to test the rear tow hook validation. Josh Holder and I put it off a couple times out in the snow there. Really what's cool about the car, though, is the acceleration is stunning, and the all-wheel drive is addicting. The car effectively outgrew our facility. Those trees come out of nowhere, and because the car was so fast, we actually had to cut down trees to make it safer, because the rate of speed that the E-Ray can manage on this course versus any other GM product is so different that it required a whole different level of safety. That is how fast the E-Ray is. And what's really cool is we held a buy-off ride out there. That's effectively when Taj, Josh, Harlan, Trevor Hall, those guys come up and validate the performance of the car. Well, any other car, you just go out to the surfaces and make sure they're safe. You know, that's all you need to do at the winter. No, for the E-Ray, we put them on here, we lap timed them, we heard what they thought about the car, and we made it better. That's the E-Ray difference, is we really created one like none. Well, our time came. We waited a long time to finally put this car against our competitors, against professional drivers, and time it against the world. We got invited to what's called the FAT International Ice Race, and you'll learn more about that in a second. But in February of 24, we shipped the car to Colorado, and we finally got to put the car up against the others. So what is ice racing? It's effectively what I was just talking about on our 1 mile long course. It's a closed race course where you're going against the stopwatch against other cars. So full lap in the snow, and we went up against the FAT International, which is actually a Porsche event. The grandson of the guy who started Porsche, actually Ferdy Porsche here, he's revived this into a lifestyle brand where they go across the world ice racing. Well, they brought it to the United States for the first time, invite only, drivers and cars, and Mobile One was able to get us in there with an E-Ray. And it's really neat because ice racing goes back to the 1950s. It's nothing new, but it's starting to gain traction and become a new thing, and we're so proud that the E-Ray was part of that experience. And thanks to Mobile One, you know, they made this all happen. And here's some pretty big articles that you can go back later and look on. Big names, right? The FAT race had a lot of media attention as it was a very heavy Porsche-influenced event. So letting an outsider like a Corvette into the event was a pretty special experience. Okay, so what is this? Well, it's effectively the Goodwood Festival of Speed on ice. These weren't normal cars that were there. There was a Le Mans winning Porsche there. There was a Group B Audi race car, rally car, tons of professional cars, professional drivers that they flew from all over the world into this. So this is a very special event with millions and millions of dollars of cars and a production E-Ray on winter tires. So how this worked, there was 50 cars split between the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive class. We were obviously in the all-wheel drive, which was typically the faster classes you can expect on ice and snow. You got practice laps where you got to go around and, you know, really test out your car, your chassis. Then there's the demo laps where these people who paid $7,000 to $10,000 for entry tickets got to ride along with you. And then there was the timed portion. Qualifying, you got 3 laps to put in a lap time. And if you didn't do so good, that was the end of your day. But if you were one of the lucky 3, you made it to the shootout, and you got to go for the overall win. Just wanted to show you some of the cars here. That car won Le Mans overall. This was Ken Block's race car. This is a Pikes Peak hill climb 1,000 horsepower Porsche. These are professional drift cars. You know, this is just the ones that Mobile One sponsored, and there was a bunch more of them. And, you know, these cars it was literally like the Goodwood Festival of Speed. I mean, there's millions of dollars of cars. So you see all these beautiful cars, and then this awesome E-Ray. So just giving you a neat overlay of the track. This was 0.34 miles, so it was a pretty small track, but it was super fun. This direction, and this is like a drone shot of the track. So you come through here and you stay through the painted lines, and it's mostly flat through here, and then that's a big hill that's on camber. You come through these S's, and this is my favorite part where you put your foot to the floor and let the E-Ray rip. This is a nice overlay that shows you in Aspen what we were looking like. So, you know, that's looking at the beautiful backdrop in Colorado, just stunning views. And this was the paddock area. Like I said, this was just millions and millions of dollars of cars. We were very honored that Porsche let us come to this event. Well, how did we do? We went into this event not really knowing. We were kind of a stepchild to the event. We didn't know if we were going to do well. I mean, these are serious built race cars. Well, we put it on the podium. Of all the cars there, we were the second fastest overall, and we got second place to a pro driver. So by getting into the qualifying top 3, we made the shootout. Oh my gosh, we did it. And the amount of hype and buzz around the car doubled when that happened. And we actually ended up finishing in that same place. I couldn't get that car, don't get me wrong. Second place, my coworkers reminded me of that. You didn't win, but we had a great time. And realistically, to show that the E-Ray was this fast in the snow and ice, we're here to party. You know, we're going to have a good time. And the E-Ray shocked the world. And when we did good, we had people coming over giving us fist bumps. The taxi line got longer and longer. People were wanting to ride in the car. The announcer was talking about how fast and how awesome the E-Ray looked. And that really put us on the map for what the E-Ray can do in snow. This was the Podium, really quite ironic. There's a lot of Porsche, and then 4 GM Corvette engineers up there. But we loved it. That was the team that supported it. And this is that beautiful car that we had there, number 47, which we attempted to pull the sticker off. I didn't do the greatest job, but it's right here from the car, and we wanted to highlight it and resemble it. And one of the funny things was, being on the podium overall, I thought I was going to get a neat little plaque or a trophy. He handed me this bag, Ferdy Porsche himself. It was a really cool moment. And I'm looking in the bag, I'm like, I don't understand what this is. Well, he gave me like a sheriff badge that says Fat International. He gave me some feathers. It's weird. I guess maybe he doesn't like Corvettes. Well, as it turns out, I was reminded about a month later, apparently in Aspen, Colorado, you make cowboy hats there. I had no idea. So I found that pretty funny. I had all these things. I got a flask. I'm like, it's all up here because, what is this? I had no idea. But anyways, I actually should have made a cool cowboy hat, and then I could have been the sheriff of the town for the night. Well, you've heard me talk a lot. Why don't we show some cool videos? So our partner, Mobile One, they were flying drones all over. And as you could see, we're there to have a good time. We had the top off the whole time. That's what heated seats are for. Anyways, they had the drone over us the whole time as we're sliding around and got this really neat footage. And shout out to them. You know, they were really key in getting us into this event and getting this footage. So these are some of the teasers that were shown on social media. And what I'm about to show you next is some of the behind the scenes that have never been seen before. Okay, so this is what I wanted to highlight on the E-Ray, leaning on the all-wheel drive. You gotta trust your foot on the floor using the throttle. So this is just showing you what the all-wheel drive is able to do when you get into a situation when you get sideways. So I paused it right here, and if your calculations are looking about where the directional path, there's that 75 degrees. That window is what you're looking out. So this was a little bit of an oopsie that I had. It was really icy in the morning, and I came into that on-cambered uphill, and I came down, and I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be bad. Well, rather than just running out of knobs and kind of just spinning like this, I put my foot to the floor, and the car pulled out. And before I show you this, we had professional drifters there, people that do this for a living. They saw this and came up to us and said, my drift car can't even do that. That is phenomenal what the E-Ray can do. It's like, oh boy, here we go. You see how the front axle pulled us out of that? No other car I've driven can do that. And really, you can think that disconnected axle. And what I mean by that is when it can actually spool up the front motor at a much higher RPM than the rear. So you're actually going to, if you look at like a torque split, that's probably pushing most of the torque to the front axle rather than the rear, and there's no mechanical relationship, so we can do it on an instant, and it can really bail you out and pull you out of those conditions. And that's what makes our E-Ray architecture so unique and so powerful. So you heard we did good. We put it on the podium. But really, my favorite part was giving taxi laps and showing all these people what this car can do from the passenger seat. These are just some neat pictures that were taken along the day. But when you're trying to do fast laps, you're trying to keep the car inch perfect as you go across the snow and ice. Taxi laps, put your foot to the floor and let it slide. This is my favorite part right here.
That's sweet.
So it's really funny. It's hard to make... Thank you. It's hard to make videos in the snow and ice look fun and fast because you are going slower. You're on a much lower grip surface. So the only way to do that is to make the car slide around like that and have fun. This video was actually taken by one of the spectators, and Trevor Tompkins from Communications actually tracked them down to get it because it was such an awesome video from the outside. We had to have it.
Here, I'll grab it.
So the E-Ray is special. It allows you to do this and have fun. That's a bone stock car with Michelin winter tires that you can get from the dealer. We literally spent so much time at Winter Test waiting for this opportunity and waiting for customers to go out and have fun in the snow that we truly cannot wait to hear what you guys think of this car. These were some of the neat pictures taken across the event, and we had a lot of social media outreach from this. And this one was actually really funny. If you watch this Mobile One post, they're like, yeah, it's a hybrid. And then they go on to say something about, but watch this. And it's, completely sideways going through there. This car is different. If you think of the mission, it was never a hybrid to be efficient and have good fuel economy. Those things are side effects that are positives. But really, this was an electrified car to add power to the front axle in addition to the LT2 and to give it that all-wheel drive performance. And we're so proud of the way the car turned out. So really, what we need you guys to do is to buy these because my trips are expensive, like Tad said, and we need to be able to support this. So go get out there, go get an E-Ray, turn traction and stability off, find some snow, and have fun. So before we jump into questions, I just want to highlight what that blue car is out there. We have a very special opportunity to bring this car here and show it off, but General Motors and Michelin have sponsored an event called One Lap of America. Give this a look up when you guys have time. But we're taking that E-Ray across the country to all of these tracks. There's 7 of them, and we're going up against the best people in the world racing this car track to track and driving this between the event. You can follow us through there. We need all the support we can get. The Z06 did great last year, and we're hoping to do the same. So with that, let's have some questions.
Cody, I don't need this, but you did mention winter tires. Were there any time on any of those videos when you just used the stock all seasons?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So everything you saw other than the fat ice race was the all-season tire. The only reason we put the winters on for the ice race is because there was a stopwatch involved. You could have done everything we did there on the all seasons, no problem. The winter tire just has a little bit more pace, as you can expect, the capacity grows. But all of that snow driving you saw before, the all seasons, for those that have witnessed that new Michelin All Season 4 Plus, Jeff, Lee, Andrew, and the Michelin guys, that tire is phenomenal. It's bespokely tuned on the E-Ray, and it lived up at winter test with us as we developed the car.
When you say that when you were sliding around and you give it the gas to bail, so the front tires bail you out, does the computer know what angle the car's at to give less acceleration to the rear wheels, and that's how the front tires are bringing you back around?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the car has a very complicated and sophisticated all-wheel drive vehicle dynamics model that's comprehending vehicle side slip, front to rear wheel slip, as well as what the driver's doing and some other criteria. And exactly that. The way the all-wheel drive works is it splits a percentage of the total driver request. So let's say you requested 100% with your pedal. That module is going to dictate at that moment in time what the best thing to do to split that torque front to rear. So when you're sliding around, we could have made the car boring and just pull straight and give it the full front axle all the time. We want to have fun. You turn traction off. So we actually are giving it a smaller amount of front axle there, just enough to keep the drift so that you can hang the rear end out. But if you get to the point where it's getting to be too much or something happens, it can bail you out and actually split that torque and shift it forward with the new module that's on the E-Ray.
Hi, awesome car, but I think that we need to upgrade the PDR so that it tracks with the 75 degrees.
I like it.
Because the PDR, you're missing half of the view as you're going around a curve.
That's brilliant. We will take notes on that one. We need a drift screen.
So when's the self-driving mode coming on?
Where's the fun in that? Put your foot to the floor. You can do it.
Hey, Cody, talk a little bit more about getting the car into the ice rink at Rockefeller Center, because we talked about that on the Corvette Today podcast. It's a great story of how you got the cars into the ice rink and running out of gas and everything. Tell that story. It's fabulous.
Yes, thank you, Steve. And anyone that wants to see the full in-depth presentation, NCM has it on their YouTube channel. You can watch everything from last year or listen to the Corvette Today podcast. What a wild story. So that whole thing started where we wanted to show the car in a way to the world that's never been seen before, and we knew we wanted to be on low mu so you could see the front wheels throwing the snow and the ice up. Where do you do that? Well, the Corvette was born in New York. Let's do it downtown New York. Where in New York do you do this? And that's when Trevor Tompkins from Communications like, hey, can you drift the Rockefeller? And I was like, I don't even know what that is, but we can do it. Look it up. I'm from Oregon, from the West Coast. Looking like, oh boy, that's small. But then you're like, well, how do you get the car in there? And that's where the story gets wild. If we didn't have pictures and videos, nobody would believe this. But we rented a huge crane, got a permit with the city of New York, and we craned down 2 cars onto the ice rink. Like, what a ridiculous process. But the thing is, the E-Ray, it recharges only from regenerative energy, right? There's no plug-in. Well, you can discharge the energy very quickly when you're spinning and hooning it around. Rockefeller's not very big. It takes you like an hour just going around in circles there, super small. So we had to crane the car back out 2 in the morning and go rip up and down the New York streets to build up the energy. And then you had to crane it back down into there. And we were a little late doing that, so the city of New York was very patient with us on permits because it was the middle of the week. And what a special process. We were on the Today Show, like all these things that are so special. And then we had the finale that you guys saw at the end where we were sitting there looking around. We're like, well, we're done with the Today Show. Nobody else is going to put a car down here. Let's see how many times we can spin this thing. Security guard wasn't too happy about it, but I knew once I started, he couldn't stop me.
Yeah. Cody, is there any estimate on the battery life? Will it ever have to be replaced, or what's the word on that?
Sure. The one thing is, a lot of the program team that can answer that even deeper, they're all here and they can answer that deeper. But one thing I know is, it survived me 4 years of doing that. And on the racetrack, we actually run what we call our 24-hour validation process. That's where we, 24 hours hot on a racetrack from professional level pace drivers, where we're putting it through the paces. That's where all of our products go through to validate and stamp that they're track ready. Well, with this car, we said that new hybrid system's brand new. We need to know how it works with longevity. Well, we ran the 24-hour, it didn't break. So we just kept going. We made it to 45 hours and gave up because we weren't breaking anything. So the hybrid system was that durable and that reliable. And really, like, I say this with all of my heart, that these things are extremely durable and reliable. And the program team can answer, some of the details deeper about that. And service happens naturally with the lifetime of a car, but I wouldn't let that stop you from buying one of these. They're seriously reliable.
Cody, you and I talked about the Cyclone and the settings on the car. For doing the ice race in Aspen, what were the settings on the car?
Sure, understood. The one thing I really like about the E-Ray is it allows you to select that mode based on what you're doing. Now, I've got a lot of seat time in the E-Ray, so I know everything it's going to do around me, and I've driven a lot in the snow. So what I did was I held the TCS and stability control button for 5 seconds, and I went full stability off. In that mode, it allows you to have full total control with the all-wheel drive system. It's a relationship between you and the car. That was what I liked the purest, and it's fun to slide around. However, there is the option where if it's your car and maybe there's a little more risk, this was super safe. If you're being timed, like for an ice race, the performance traction management is very fun. It was never designed to be on the snow or low mu, but it's very fun to run PTM out there in the snow. And of course, we tested that as well. That'll just kind of neuter some of the side slip the car's doing, but it still is very fast when you're trying to put in lap times on the snow. And you're still getting that full relationship with the all-wheel drive, but now you're just cutting the front and rear torque now with PTM. So the intelligent all-wheel drive system, the question is relating to the regen influence. That vehicle dynamics algorithm works in the positive and negative torque domain. So it's smart on when it applies the front torque to not just, drive understeer in the car or get too sideways. It works in regen as well. So as you're sliding the car around, it knows that that regen is probably not good to do right now because that could affect the chassis balance, especially on low grip. The regen itself can actually deep slip the wheels and cause the front to wash out. And we calibrated it around that to make that never happen. But when you're on the brakes, if you're not in anti-lock brakes, so you're not ABS actively locking the wheels, it will regen to a degree, but only when it's beneficial, not detrimental to the vehicle performance. So we can show the PDR if you want to look at it later, but I would expect that through this, it was mostly all positive discharge and very little recharge. For anyone that really wanted to know, we made it 4 laps. Effectively, that was what we did in our practice runs. Never ran out of battery, and that's with me driving it like that, of that course.
Cody, what if somebody decided to take their E-Ray and add another 100, 200 horse to the engine? Is the system smart enough to compensate, understand that, and perform properly?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And the one thing, the GM answer is always, we optimize it perfectly the way the car gets delivered. And if you add torque on the rear axle, there's chances that you could upset that all-wheel drive balance because, like I was saying, the way it splits torque front to rear, it's a relationship of what we expect the rear to do that we're wanting to match the balance with the front. So if the rear's making a lot more power, I would expect that the car could be quite different when it's drifting around if it wasn't tuned for it. In a straight line, I wouldn't say every time it's going to work because there are some things that could really confuse the systems with torque reporting. You might get lucky because in drag racing, the way that the wide open pedal boost algorithm works is mostly purely based on full throttle. So if you're full throttle, you're typically going to get the full torque. But that comes with an asterisk of the propulsion system and chassis system are so tightly coupled on this car, you do have to be careful on how you monitor that with the E-Ray. I saw someone else has already tried this. I saw a twin turbo E-Ray on the internet. It's pretty cool. I don't know how well it worked personally, but we made it perfect for the way it was delivered from the showroom, the relationship between the axles.
Cody, thank you for everything that you're telling us this morning. But can you speak to the typical C8 owner? Why would we make a change, being a street-driven or touring-driven car, why we would consider an E-Ray or an upgrade to an E-Ray?
Is this in the respect to like a Stingray?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Yeah, really, the easy one is this. If you have the money, right, the Stingray is a fantastic car. It's the value, it's phenomenal. If you have the money to bridge that delta gap, usually 1 0 to 60 will tell you that answer pretty quickly. It's phenomenal. and then usually the Cyclone will tip you over the next one. But really, what it allows you to do is it gives you those standard all seasons, right? So if you wanted to Grand Tour the Stingray, and let's say it's 45 degrees, and oh boy, I'm going through Utah or Colorado, and there's some snow there, it's now fun, right? Like the car is so stable and safe. You've got that all-wheel drive there to help you dig through those conditions. So really, it just raises that Grand Tour. And the way that the chassis aggression is set up, it sits between a Stingray and a Z06, so it's not super stiff. It was designed very much to be something you can drive across the country, and it's just faster than a Stingray. So you're paying for that performance, you're paying for the all-wheel drive and stealth mode, which is a nice way to get out of your neighborhood.
Yes. When is your next race, and will there be a Corvette Corral?
That's a great point. So when we talk about One Lap of America, now this is in high grip, that event comes to NCM. So if you look here, I can tell you, hang on, stand by. May 8th. May 8th, we'll be right across the street. If you guys are local, come support us. We'll be right here putting the E-Ray on track. I don't know much about it. They're good friends of ours. Don't know, honestly. I'm sure they've got some plans to crank her up, though, huh?
I think it just recently came out, but I just wonder what the durability is going to be when you're adding that much horsepower, and then also the correlation of synchronizing front-wheel drive and the rear wheel.
Sure. Yeah, that was pretty similar answer to what we said over here. But Dave Simpson's here, who knows a lot about the transmission durability, et cetera. But I mean, we're pretty confident the way we present the car factory, and I guess, yeah, if you really care about warranty and braking stuff, et cetera, it's kind of on you at that point if you start modifying them that hard.
Hey, Cody, so to caveat on the young lady's question that was answered behind us, for the Laps of America there, what website are we going to so we can see that in bigger detail? I know you mentioned Motorsports Park, but I know there's some other near Chicago,
right.
Looks like Wisconsin. That's, I'm sure somebody's close to those somewhere and they'd like to support you guys. Where do we go to find that in bigger detail?
Understood. Yeah, so actually the website, if I can have Mariah post it when we do this, but if you actually just Google One Lap of America, it'll bring you to their homepage, and that's where they have the tracking and the timing of everything, as well as they're very active on the One Lap of America Facebook. So I can call this out too. I know you guys are from across the world. So we start and we do a skid pad in northern Indiana on May 4th, and we actually end there May 11th. May 5th, we're in, I believe it's Motorsports Hastings, I think that's Nebraska. And then we go to May 6th, we're in Colorado, High Plains Raceway. May 7th, we're Hedge Hollow, I believe that's Missouri. And then NCM, right here, hometown advantage. And then we go to Pit Race, which is where we did a lot of the E-Ray chassis controls development. We went there several times when we were developing the car. So we expect the car to do very well there in Pittsburgh area. And then we head back into Ohio for a drag race, where if that doesn't do well, we should do very well in the drag race there. And then we come back to Indiana to finish the event. And as you guys know, the Z06 last year did very good. They went to a couple different tracks, and Brian Wallace and Andrew Simwell, two of our coworkers from GM and Michelin in Respect, actually won a couple of the events when they were out there.
So, Cody, Car and Driver did the lightning lap, and I found it interesting to read about how they had to try to get a maximum lap time. They had to press the regen button at a certain point, depending on where they were on the track. Found it very awkward because of where it's placed, as opposed to being up here on the steering wheel or something like that. Do you find that an issue if you're racing, where the regen button is, if in fact you have to use that to get around the lap?
Sure. Yeah, so I was actually there helping coach Car and Driver. So the one thing we could say too is there's a long and a short answer to this. So the Charge Plus mode, which is the button that they were pressing, that has several functions. When you're driving around on the street, it's mostly there to build up the energy so that you can have full charge if you want to use stealth mode or go do 0 to 60s. Or on a racetrack, when you're in track or performance traction management and you press Charge Plus, now you've actually unlocked a mode that consciously pulls down the energy on a racetrack to preserve it more linearly. So what I mean by that is if you're in Charge Plus on a racetrack and you go on a straightaway, it's going to boost you out of a corner and then it's going to taper off. And the reason it's doing that is to preserve the energy so that you can have consistency over what we call like a track day or a tank of fuel. Now, based on the battery sizing, we have what, if you're not in Charge Plus, you're in what we call max deplete. That's when it's giving you, no joke, it's giving you everything it's got in a straight line. So that's that free energy, not helping you for dynamics, purely making you go faster. So the sizing of the battery is only what it is, right? 1.9 kilowatt hour. And VIR Grand is a very, very long track. Now, I will say you can lap that forever through a tank of fuel in either max deplete or Charge Plus. You'll always have vehicle dynamics all-wheel drive. You're never going to lose your all-wheel drive. So that's a given. If you want to get maximum pace out of the car for a track that's typically over 90 seconds, then the best way to do it is to actually start playing button games. And it's actually engaging and fun. The program team and I, we went back and forth on this a lot if we want to do that in the car or not. But we found that allowing people to engage with the front axle gives them that relationship where they get to decide where they can deploy the energy. It almost feels like an F1 car. You get to pick when you get to squirt the energy down the straightaway. And it is a new button, and it's right here. I find, Trevor Hall was with me on the track yesterday over there. I was pressing it 3 or 4 times over there. I can get it every time, no problem. I think maybe give us a chance because I think you'll get used to it, and I think you can slap it pretty easily. And the E-Ray is very stable in the corners, so you're not trying to dance around catching it. But yeah, I just want to highlight for anyone that takes them on the track, you can leave it in either mode, and the car is fantastic. On about a 90-second window of a track, and this is variable, something like a road Atlanta, you can go the whole time in the max deplete for a lap, and it rips. There you go, exactly. And we want to give you the best of both worlds. Like if you're in a track day and you've got 20 minutes, if you do the max deplete your first lap, boy, that was fun. But now you've only got all-wheel drive for the rest of the session, and you don't really get that free boost. So it really just depends on where you want to energize it. And like I said, you can leave in either mode. If you don't want to touch it, that's fine. But if you want to have a special bond with your car, you can kind of pick where you want to use the energy.
Okay, being down from Florida, do you have any plans to get down to Sebring?
So I've been there a couple times with my own Camaro. What a fantastic track. The E-Ray would do so well there. We don't know of any plans to go there right now, but I think that'd be a great development track, wouldn't it? That's a fun track.
Hi, Cody. In response to a couple questions ago, and you and I put together yesterday, I'm John of the Mid-Engine Corvette Forum, and we have a cooperative relationship. We have the website already up and for people to track, and we're going to be following the car all the way across in the entire one lap, and you can follow it at Mid-Engine Corvette Forum.
So I think one thing we should do about that is, and thank you for doing that, the One Lap of America, it's a really awesome event. It is hard to follow, and I feel your pain there. Some of the ice race was that way. Like, if you weren't there, it was really hard to know what was going on. Like, my dad had to subscribe to get the lap times, and it's a little goofy, a little awkward. One Lap of America is probably hard in that same way, and I feel your pain. So I think what I'll do is I'll probably share contact information for the Mid-Engine Forum, and maybe that can be our synchronous where we can talk through how every day went. You know, he can have our notes, how'd we do today, and maybe that's the best way to do it too, because we're trying to build up and get more press around this, and I think that might give us the single point of contact best way to do it, if that works for you, sir. Oh, there is? Oh, Michelle knows. Oh, really? Yeah, this is my first year doing this. There's some growing pains. I know Brian, who actually isn't here today, he did it last year, and same with some of the Michelin guys. But it does sound like there is a live stream, so that's pretty cool, and maybe we can attach that to the forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cody, for your presentation today. I don't know about all of you, but it was a great one.
Thank you all for coming.